Welcome to the November meeting of the Commission on Aging. Thanks for everybody for being here. We have a strong quorum today, most appreciated. Our first item on the agenda is the discussion of the October minutes. Anybody have any suggestions? Peter?
I have some edits to it, which I gave the recording secretary.
Perfect.
A few of them are purely grammatical.
Okay.
But the one that required some significant alteration
Okay.
was what Tom talked about last time about the parking lot. There weren't cones, it was a bump. So I simply rewrote that paragraph
Okay.
and gave it to our secretary.
Perfect. Can you read that paragraph for me just real quick so we
Sure.
have it so everybody can hear it before we vote on it?
Mr. Dempsey said there were concerns about the traffic bump
Yeah.
in the back driveway,
Mhm.
close to the Mather Center entrance. Ms. Parrish said that during the summer camp, there are people who drive too fast back there. The bump presents a pedestrian hazard to folks using canes, walkers, or have difficulty walking. There have been several near misses with those using walkers. Mr. Pankowski said he would check into how the bump can be cut down to allow pedestrians to move through the area safely.
Good. Great. Any other suggested alterations to the minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Thank you, Mary. Second. Thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Our next item on the agenda is the Mather Center report. Unfortunately, Beth has a bit of a crisis on hand. The chef is sick today, and
Oh, no.
today is the Thanksgiving dinner. So as a result, Beth, as we speak, is scrambling. So if you're watching this on TV 79 and the Thanksgiving dinner actually happened today on lunch, on Wednesday, November 15th, she is a miracle worker. So we'll find out whether Beth can pull that off. She may have to cancel depending on whether she can get somebody in to be the chef. So Beth will give us her Mather Center report for November at our December meeting. So I will turn it over to Ally for our Human Services report.
Oh my gosh, I'm in shock. Beth? Wow,
Yeah.
I think they were supposed to have well over 100 people today.
120 according to her
Yeah.
email this morning.
Oh my, oh boy. Okay, so our low-income, energy assistance program is well underway. We've had a lot of new people applying, and I don't know if I mentioned this in September, but there's less federal funding this year. So unfortunately, especially our seniors who have oil-heated homes, they're going to receive less grants this year, which is going to be really unfortunate. Anyway, so that continues through the spring. A renter's rebate ended at the end of September, and there were a total of 41 applications completed, 37 approved, with $20,320 in grants. So the clients already started receiving those checks in late October. They should have probably all received them by now, which is nice. Some of them get up to $750, which is perfect timing for the holidays. So
How long does that go on for?
it starts every year in the beginning of May and goes till the end of September. So people have plenty of time. And we send a letter to everyone who applied the year before, reminding them.
And the rent comes through from how many
The
months?
check comes, well, it's based on the previous year's rent and utilities and how much you spend. That's how they calculate and your income, how they calculate what your rebate is. Cynthia does the whole program. So this year for Thanksgiving, we're giving all of our families $200 in gift cards for grocery stores, and the seniors $100. We're not mailing them because we feel like it's a lot to mail. So some of the seniors who are homebound, we're going to be delivering those to them, but most of them have been coming in. Everyone's been pleasantly surprised. So we're using some ARPA funding for that, so that's why they got the extra little bonus. So it was almost double of what we usually give people. And then I think Joe actually shared with the commission that we're currently starting our Adopt a Family and Adopt a Senior program for the holidays. So I know many of you in here have participated before, thank you, and are participating again. But anyone who's interested can email us. It's all confidential, so it's our families, our low-income families that we work with. We send the families a little bit of a wish list of some things that they would like. It's pretty much gift cards now, because then the families can go do the shopping themselves. And then it's all anonymous, of course. And then same with the seniors, not just necessarily low-income seniors. It could be seniors who are struggling, and so we match them up, give you a little snippet of all anonymous, of course, about the senior, and then some suggestions, and then those seniors that can't come pick it up, we actually have two, well, actually now they're gonna be in college, but two young girls who volunteered the last couple of years to deliver it, and they want to do it again this year, so that's kind of fun. One's a senior in high school, one's a sophomore in college, so they're still doing it, yeah.
When, I know I said yes, but when can we expect to hear from you?
So that, actually, we're blocking off time in our schedules, like, we need to get this information out, so
Okay.
definitely by next week, we're gonna hopefully figure it all out this week and send out the email
Okay.
next week.
Right, I was hoping I hadn't missed something.
No, you didn't, you
I
didn't,
said
you know,
yes, but I haven't
it
heard
snuck
anything.
up on us, we're like, we need to get this information out, so we
Yeah.
actually, we'll be getting it by next week.
Great, thank you.
So, thank you so much. And I think other stuff is just the routine stuff, yeah. Again, it's that time of year, hopefully we have a mild winter, but our emergency call list, we just actually, from at home, they just referred someone to us, so we just added another couple to the list. We're always welcome for more, anyone who's interested, you'd get a call before any kind of possible storm, and then if there's power outages, we'd check on you, and also if you have special needs like oxygen or a hospital bed or something like that, you'd be a priority in reconnecting your service, so you can call our office. And that's it.
Thank you, Ally. Any questions for Ally? Hearing none, thank you so much. Our primary topic for today is promotion of seniors' use and enjoyment of the new Ziegler property as plans are going forward, turning it into a park. So in thinking about the other parks in town and how seniors might use them, I'll open it with, I think the number one thing would be a paved trail, right? Which would allow seniors to be able to, those in wheelchairs, those on walkers, all of those kinds of things, to be able to enjoy the park. And that is to make sure that that's there, because if it's a gravel path or if it's a path with wood chips, for obvious reasons, those are nice and very and probably more environmentally friendly than concrete, no doubt, but nevertheless, certainly not as accessible to our seniors. So that would be my thought as the number one, and I'm open to other thoughts of other folks here today as to what else should be in this park, and do you agree about the paved path, things of that nature?
Oxford's Lane is, I live on Oxford's Lane, and their trail there is asphalt.
Nice.
And it is well used. There are lots of seniors out there. And it's not intrusive. They did it in a very nice way. But I agree, it's not that's the only way it can actually be usable for people who have, well, it's like the kids with the strollers. It's the equivalent, except for the seniors with walkers and other things. So I think that's a good idea. They can have multiple trails, so you could have senior-friendly trail, and then you could have more kind of fit in with the environmental trails.
Which is also an interesting point relating to cycling, right? In other words, if you're going to allow cycling on these trails, you might want to separate the cycling from the others. I mean, if you think about this, the nature of it,
Yeah.
we all see cyclists during the normal year. To the extent that they're moving at a quicker pace than your average senior on this path, that might also be a significant challenge, especially given the fact that you have some blind turns and things of that nature. So something else to think about. Thank you. Peter?
A question first. How many here took the planning and zoning bus tour 2 weeks ago of the island? Just raise your hand if you've taken it.
I have not, but I have trespassed on it off my kayak, so I walked the entire property.
Watch the video.
Good, and
Yeah.
watch the video,
Yeah.
right. So my recommendation would be, since so many have not seen the property, you could look at it on the video
Yeah.
from Channel 79, great idea, Chris. Or Joe, you could arrange a tour for us.
That would be
Because
nice if I could make that happen. Good
Because I
luck.
think us sitting here speculating.
No, I disagree, Peter. I'll completely disagree. We
You
all
have-
know what it is. We all know what it is.
No, you don't.
How do we not know? Tell us what you saw that we
I
haven't
was
seen.
surprised, really, at the extent of the property.
It's a large 80-some-odd acre
I
property.
was surprised that there were some trails and the condition of the trails. I mean, and I've never trespassed the property, so it was all brand new to me. And again, in my mind, again, collectively, if you'd like to get some ideas, otherwise it's just you that may have seen it and others clear blue skying it. Again, just a
It's a
suggestion.
wilderness property currently with houses on it, right?
But we can arrange to see it.
It's a wilderness property with houses on it. I don't think we can arrange to see it, Peter. That seems like a fantasy to me. But listen,
But 700 people did see it.
I understand that, and people can watch it on video.
And by the way, the 700 people are also are going to be surveyed for their recommendations.
Awesome, and that's why we're here today, which is to talk about the question of, assuming a wilderness park, which is what it is currently, what should seniors have in any park, for that matter? Think of any park that we have in town. What should seniors have in this park? I don't think you need to tour this park to know what seniors would need. Now, we can agree to disagree, as we have in the past. But at the end of the day, so first question, okay, since we have an agreement to disagree here, should I call the motion to whether people want me to try to do a tour for the Commission on Aging and whether that can be done? I will try to arrange for that. Or do people want to discuss now, which has been on the agenda since last month, okay? The question is of how we deal with it. So, Peter, you want to call the motion?
As you said it.
Okay. All in favor of Joe Pankowski trying to get us a tour? All opposed? Okay, we have it.
I
So,
have a question.
back to discussion.
I think we need to take an accurate count of who doesn't really know about Great Island. Like Sue and I know about Great Island.
I've been there many
Many
times
times.
as a realtor. I've rented properties there. I've been to the when they used to have the children's aid sale at the stable. I mean, I know it. I've been to the boat house. I know it quite well, so.
And I could also take people if they wanted to, because I work with the gatehouse. And so I'm allowed to go on the property, so if anybody wants to ride in a Subaru, I'll take them around.
That is a great
And I
suggestion.
would volunteer our vehicles if anybody wants to take a
But we have
ride.
to do it kind of low key.
Yeah.
Right, it's,
Okay.
you do
But
trespass.
what you do
Alright.
is you meet in the gatehouse driveway.
Okay.
We just meet there, then you get in my Subaru, and then we just drive around.
We were asked by the town to do a couple of rides
Okay.
to there to supplement the buses that were going there.
So I think that's a great idea. So to the extent that you want to take the tour, right, and come back, 'cause this is going to be an ongoing thing. We're talking years. We're not talking about this is going to happen tomorrow anyway. So thank you, okay. Other than yours truly trespassing in the kayak and others, okay.
We're on TV.
And on TV, yeah, okay, come get me, I get it, okay, at the end of the day, sorry.
Me too, I'm
Parked at
sorry.
the beach, I walked around, yeah, exactly. Hey, God, come and take me away.
It's a
But-
free country.
But in any event, it is an incredible property. But at the same time, so one of the biggest questions would be, okay, facility-wise, right?
Yeah.
In other words, obviously people have a lot of different thoughts about this, from the pool people, right? From the people who want to make it a wedding venue, right? So for example, is there a way of gutting that huge house that apparently has not been lived in since the 1970s?
1974.
There you go, okay, and turning that into a venue, right, that's gonna be on the topic. So back to the original point, are there other things within a wilderness park that we think seniors should have, okay, subject to further alteration once folks have seen the park better, okay? I'll open it back up.
Joe,
Yes.
just make a suggestion. I don't know if anybody's been to the Atria, but one of the things I was impressed that inside they have a trail.
Yeah.
And they have different stations
Mhm.
that have low impact exercises. So that might be something for the seniors, walking, some signs, little classy placards that show some type of exercise. They stop, do a low impact exercise, just
Great idea,
something.
that's two.
Well, I also think instead of just putting one park bench, have like a little seating group, like maybe 3 or 4
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
And that would make it very, very nice for people to meet up and have lunch there if they want and things like
Brilliant,
that.
especially with the views that
Not
are
just-
in that various
Yeah.
places of that park, which are just stunning.
Especially that big, Villa Julia has that big, huge patio right on the water. It's
Yeah.
so lovely.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think the restroom facilities need to be exceptional for seniors.
Yes.
Because just having,
Yeah, makes sense.
you know, just having sanitary outhouses isn't going to work. And I have no idea what they're planning, but I think it's going to have to be a more significant structure than people have thought about in the past, and I think especially for seniors.
And I would just add to that, I would think anything that would be new or added would have to be handicapped accessible.
Yeah,
no
just under
question.
law. So
No
Yeah.
question.
even with the restrooms, that would
Exactly.
be the question, and just, you know, I think that
I think
would
the
be.
stables area would be an ideal place. They already don't have adequate bathrooms there with the size of the square footage. So if they could kind of zero in on that, it's got a really nice parking area
Mhm.
and it's all flat, so that might be a really good place. Like
Yeah.
Jim's saying, you know, something that really works, not one of these porta potty type
Yeah.
things.
No question. Yeah, I think that from a restroom perspective, it almost has to be, right, as good as you can get.
Yeah.
Something like the Mather Center.
Yeah.
Right, where you're basically planning for seniors to use the facilities.
A national park type facility. you know,
Yes.
where-
Based on some of the national parks I've been to,
Well, I was just in Yellowstone, and they have better restrooms than I have at home.
very nice, okay, and I've been to the Great Smoky Mountains, and I'm going, oh, these restrooms really need some help. Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Has anyone been to Irwin Park in New Canaan?
no.
That's, it was an old estate, and they did there's a couple of walking trails, and I was there a couple of months ago. My recollection is they did something that was walkable, but not like total macadam. It had some permeability that would be more environmentally sound, and not my area of expertise, but I would think maybe someone might wanna check out what they use for that water.
Yeah, it's almost like a rubber surface
Yeah, yeah.
that is cushioned, I mean, when you
Right,
step on
but I
it.
think it's also permeable, so it's not,
Yes. Yeah, it's got some
so it's not
contour texture.
environmentally,
Yeah.
What about decking? Like you'd have at a beach type of,
Look out,
Menu.
look out.
All right, look out,
just decking walkways.
okay.
They-
I don't know, what do you mean by
Decking,
decking?
meaning
Like boardwalk kind of.
wood, a wood,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
with railings,
Yeah.
like you have at the beach.
Boardwalk maintenance.
Yeah,
A
wood.
wood, no, a deck walk, I guess,
Okay.
decking, meaning, I don't know.
They have them that they're not, they don't need a
Yeah,
lot.
Like a dock, but
Yeah,
not,
you're right.
Yeah.
That would be good, yeah.
I think most beach places have that kind of,
Mhm.
you know, to get from A to B as opposed to an actual structure that's there, then you'd want something a little bit more substantial.
I was thinking, along those lines, the gazebo at Pear Tree Point Park, right? I mean, that's also a place where you could, also especially if it starts raining, okay, to be able to be underneath.
Very good idea.
Right, I mean, and there are a
Like
couple.
at the gathering place, you could have the gazebo there.
Right, where people could, weekdays, they could use it for lunches, and I've done weddings as a piece at Pear Tree Point. It's very cool.
It's
Clu-
very cool
It's
there.
a nice spot, so that would be another thing that would be cool.
Mhm.
Other thoughts?
We have some good ideas.
Yeah, I mean, and so, one of the questions is gonna be as we move forward, I'm not asking for volunteers right now, okay? But I am thinking going forward, as this thing moves forward. It's obviously, they're still at a very early stage right now, where they've got all kinds of stuff they're dealing with to figure out what they're demolishing, what they're keeping, things of that nature. I'm not sure we need to be involved at that level of detail. But we wanna be thinking of how ideally, if we could get somebody on that commission on behalf of seniors, okay? And so, give that some thought, and if one of you wants to volunteer to try, I will do, that I will push very hard to say, hey, listen, we need to get senior representation on this to make sure that in fact, we have something going on. So give that some thought. Circle back to me if you're interested. I don't think that requires a vote. I think we can get somebody on there, and we can go from there. Any other discussion of Ziegler's for now? Hearing none, thanks so much. Peter, you were up to discuss your recent report at SWACA.
Yeah, okay. I sent Joe, and I think he's distributed to you, this is the monthly report that I gave SWACA. And it covers pretty much, they've asked for what are the activities in town. So if any of you in reading this have any thoughts for future issues, please let me have them. But in my mind, this is pretty much what's been going on in town that relates to olders, okay? I'm gonna use the word olders from now on.
I like that. Where'd you come up with that?
I didn't. But I'm going to segue that, Joe, into the rest of my report. I'm going to segue that into the Aging Connecticut Summit, which
Okay.
we held, okay? It was held, it was sold out, there were 450 people at this event. Caitlin from the Senior Center went, and it was quite successful. And I kind of herded the panel on housing together, and the morning, at 6:30 in the morning, I got a email and a call from David Genovese saying that he was in the hospital, he couldn't make the presentation because, as Jerry pointed out to me, he had
Shingles.
shingles in his eye.
Yikes.
Fortunately, he had made a very fine presentation, slide presentation. Unfortunately, I'll admit this even on television, when he asked me if I wanted to see it beforehand, I said, no, that's okay, you're gonna handle it, right? And all of a sudden, he wasn't there. And I did a rotten job really, but at least everybody saw his view of Darien. And the main point he was making, which I think a lot of the audience responded to, and in that session there were 250 people, was his discovery of NORCs, naturally occurring retirement communities. And there were folks in the audience that did know that definition, which is really something that's emerging. In other words, through a town's restructuring, through a town's rebuilding, through a town's reorganization, through aging populations, what is happening now is areas that really weren't designated as retirement centers are becoming them. And David used the example of hosting cocktail parties and things like that at Jerry at previous locations, and how this has changed and how amazed he was at seniors. And I know Chris, he has sent some people at Home in Darien, and I'm sure the Human Resources, because the population there has changed from their original thought of young people to really more senior people. We're going to meet tomorrow, actually, to figure out the end result of all of this and what we might want to do going forward. And I think we will definitely do this going forward, okay? Our keynote speaker was Ashton Applewhite. And Ashton Applewhite is an activist, a really very brilliant activist against ageism. And somebody asked her a question, and the questions and answers. So what should we call ourselves? I mean, are we seniors? You know, are we older adults? And somebody said, older adults, it's so hard. And she said, I use two words, older and younger. And she said, that truly is a very clear definition, because it's an older son, it's a younger son, it's an older parent, and so that's why I'm going to try to use the word olders going forward. But I thought, isn't that clever?
It is
Isn't
very
that
clever, yeah.
So that was,
We just got changed.
You just got used to seniors, right?
Relabel. Oh, relabel.
a few other things. AARP has started something that for the first time this year has developed a caregiver's kit that they put into libraries and senior centers with a thank you poster, simple thank you poster, and that I got them into the Stanford Library and Silver Source and the Darien Library, and Beth said she was going to do something with it. But November is Caregiver Month. It's really not been recognized very much, so they're going to try to undertake an effort. So this is a very beginning. It's a launch.
What would be the kind of thing in the kit?
All kinds of resources to help folks find aid to veterans, aid to Alzheimer programs, where to find resources, training, schooling. So really just saying thank you. And like at the library, for example, would make sense, books on caregiving. I mean, the library's full, but no one's necessarily organized them into a caregiving or highlighted the ones that are important. So it's an initiative, it's a real initiative. The next thing I want to report on was the Greenwich Commission on Aging had a breakfast with the Chamber of Commerce. And they invited anybody to come. And I went to it, and Joe, I got the presentation deck, which I sent you, and it was quite interesting. There were only 30 people there, which kind of surprised me, and most of them were vendors, people, you know, wanting to provide service to seniors. But what it was, I think, it was really a very clearly defined list of all the services that are available, a well-done list. But what surprised me was they were words, and I didn't really see them articulated. It's, you know, and one of the things I noticed was missing was they had the At Home in Greenwich was an element of this. And there was nothing really said about it other than it is there. So I followed up with At Home in Greenwich, and let me tell you a little bit about it. They share space at the Second Congregational Church, so they're removed, if you will, from the key locations where seniors gather, except for that, of course, that faith community. Their fee for 50, and it's from 50 or older, people 50 or older at home in Greenwich. It's $500 for a senior, for a single, and it's $650 for a couple. They have a 17-member board. I looked at their website, it hadn't been updated since the spring of 2023. And here's, in my mind, the critical fact. Greenwich has a population of 63,000 people. There are 180 members of At Home in Greenwich. 180 members. And when I asked the director how many of those are on scholarship, she said currently 10, and sometimes up to 20. So you have between 18 and 36 people that essentially have proven their lack of worth, their lack of wealth, to join. And I use this to underscore a point of it's great to have the organizations in place, but it's most important to make them livable, viable, active, as we do in this town here. It is such a difference, I think, between the actual on-the-ground synergy with the words. And so again, I would just have you tuck that in the back of your minds and encourage all of you, all of us, to be more active in At Home in Darien and in other institutions, because again, we have such a valuable resource. And Greenwich knows it's a valuable resource, but you know what? We're delivering on that. We really are, thanks to Ally and to Chris and of course to Beth.
And that's what's been cool with the Mather Center's construction is the synergies, right? That we were able to bring the health department, Ally, Beth, Chris At Home in Darien, to all together in the same spot effectively. So we do get those synergies. And of course, kudos to Chris and his organization in terms of the fact that you get a card when you turn 60, free, right? And obviously, you're going to use something far more rather than paying $500 for an individual or $650 for a couple. So pretty interesting.
And they do fundraising as well, because their fees cannot cover the total services they're delivering to those 180 people.
Amazing.
A couple of other things. At the last SWACA meeting, there was a pretty interesting discussion about digital coupons and how in some towns, I think, Big Y, is that a supermarket chain?
Yeah.
I didn't even know it, but how that is affecting seniors who don't have digital phones. And what they're saying is we really need to look at this. I don't know if that's an issue in this area or not, but again, it might be something that the commission might focus on. I don't know much about it.
It is in this area because I know a couple of seniors that go to a certain supermarket in town. They have the digital and they cannot get a discount unless they do the digital.
You have to have an app on your phone.
It's really
It's very,
very
very
difficult for them.
intrusive. very intrusive and very,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
people,
it creates so much, so many challenges for people to organize and go online and actually, get to the point where they have to plan so specifically just to get the coupons, as opposed to scanning a coupon at the checkout or cutting coupons, even that's easier. I've actually complained to one of the stores here and said it's not user-friendly for people who are not used to this kind of technology.
what do you think is it because they want to make sure that you effectively see the advertising? Is that what's going on? In other words, you actually have to go on to an app, look at their advertising to download the coupon? Do you think that's what's going on?
Yeah.
Much like in the old newspaper where you had to see the ad, then
You might have to have the ad with you in some cases, so it could be scanned.
Right.
But that's pretty normal as opposed to downloading an app from XYZ chain and looking at the coupons and possibly validating or whatever else you have to do, and then using your phone to show that at your checkout.
so we actually won't give them a discount unless they use
Yeah.
that phone.
And what I'm wondering though is whether it's the supermarket issue or is it the actual company that is selling, let's call it ketchup, okay? Well, I'm not picking on Heinz, I don't know this, but assume it's Heinz, okay? And they say to Stop and Shop, you can use our digital coupon and we'll give you credit when somebody uses our digital coupon. But Stop and Shop is not in a position to say every senior who is 65 or older can get this coupon because effectively Heinz won't pay them back. You follow me? So there might be a two-parter here, which is the supermarket as to whether they can give you the digital and the behind-the-scenes company, which is looking for advertising to get people to buy the Heinz ketchup with the coupon as opposed to the store brand, the Stop and Shop ketchup. And that's my question as to whether, but it's definitely worth investigating. The question would be, how does one get behind that? How does one look at this question? Chris, you got any thoughts on that?
No, so I'm wondering, as an organization, whether that's us, whether it's, this broader group, having conversations with those grocery stores, is there an opportunity to have like a super user that could be an organization that represents the seniors that would enable a senior to come in? Now, we would promote it a lot of different ways and have to make sure that seniors are aware of it, but that when they go in there, they wouldn't have to take their phone, because I've used those and they're not easy. And, I'm a little bit more technically savvy. Maybe there's an opportunity there, and I would love to go have a conversation with each of those supermarkets just to see if there's something that an organization can do on behalf of the seniors so that it eliminates that process that you're talking about. So if you'd like, I'll
Love it. Okay, so I can make this offer. I do know one family that owns a supermarket chain in town, okay? And so as a result, we can coordinate that. I can at least start you there
Okay.
and see what they say, right? And we can go from there, because I think that to the extent that one supermarket in town, you can break that glass, right? And get one supermarket in town, and all of a sudden seniors are flowing to that supermarket. That may open up the other supermarkets, say, wait a minute, we should be offering this too, but I do think we need to break it through one. So we'll talk offline, not on TV 79, on the question of who that is and how we'll try to make that visit happen. But I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Peter, for bringing that to our attention. And see if we can, the question's gonna be, can they get the manufacturer to agree and each one? I think that's part of the problem. These are obviously multiple coupons with multiple corporations involved. So it might need to be one corporation which does an awful lot of different things, right? Especially in the non-perishables aisle, right? Who would be willing to go along with giving you coupons for everything from spaghetti to whatever. But it's going to probably have to be something like that. You're not going to be able to do this with the smaller corporations, which may have 3 items in that. I'm thinking Coca-Cola would be a classic example of this. Coca-Cola should say yes, right? Why should they care, right? Whether they're using their digital coupon or not. But, your local place at Trader Joe's is probably going to say, what the hell? They're doing that. So we'll see. But let's talk. Good stuff. You're still up. Go ahead.
One other thing, The Darien Library canceled its focus group session because they didn't have enough people willing to go to it. In my mind, again, sadly so. I mean, again, and shame on us for not being able to generate enough support. We're only one segment of that population, so, I mean, younger adults didn't do it either. But they are going to be doing a survey, probably online survey and paper survey. So again, I would encourage you, when you see it, to participate in it. That's it, Joe. I have a
Awesome.
couple pieces of new business, but we'll get.
Sure, okay, so let's do that. But first, before I go to new business, let me turn it over to Chris. What's going on at home in Darien?
Well, first thing, Ally, when you were speaking, I was on my phone texting, and I want to just, I was texting the team, letting them know the situation downstairs,
Yeah.
and to talk to Beth and see if there's anything we can do, and reaching out. And then I got a text back that Beth is, she connected with Michael Josephs. So the
Awesome.
lunch is set, so they're all,
Beth Harris, miracle
so
worker.
she came through, yeah.
There you go.
These two are very happy over here.
We were wondering what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
I was gonna have to go to Michael Joseph's for lunch, because I'm serving. So
Oh, there you
I
go.
need to.
Okay.
Pick up the rest of them.
That's great.
Have a good day.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks, you too. Happy Thanksgiving.
A couple of things quickly. Maybe first and foremost, we're having our annual meeting on December 6th at the library at 11 o'clock, and I would hope, if available, everybody from this team can go to that. We're going to have Terry Wood, ex-state representative, who's going to be our speaker, and she's going to focus on civility in voting, but really drilling into special services that are available for seniors with things changing with absentee ballots and early voting. So she's gonna speak to that, and we're excited about that. It's only 11 to 12, but again, that's December 6th. And speaking of the library, they have a Little Tree Lane event that they put on, and they have local organizations go and decorate trees in the theme of a classic book. So we've, through our event committee, have agreed to do that. I spoke with Marianne Todernity, who is an ex officio on our board, and asked if we could do a micro kind of event for seniors, and she said yes. So on, I want to say it's December 3rd, they're going to have a a cappella concert at 3 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock, we're going to take 15 seniors, or allow 15 seniors to go, have a special tour of all of the trees and discussion of the trees, and then some snacks. And then we've reserved spaces in that big library room for the a cappella concert. So we're going to promote that in our outreach for 15 seniors to participate. So,
And
you know,
it's a Sunday, Chris?
Yes, third.
yeah,
yes,
Sunday, yes, the 3rd, yeah. So again, example of organizations,
Good stuff.
communicating, working together. We had our first business event last week, which, Joe, thank you very much for coming. It was nice to speak to you there. Just as a way of, at home in Darien, to reach out to the business community. Here's who we are, here's what we do. I think there is consensus that we'll do more of those. Just not only self-serving, but what can we do as the NORCS model is built out, then what role can we play in helping these new developments and things of that sort. And then the last thing, I was fortunate to be asked to speak on a panel at the library regarding aging in place about 3 weeks ago. And afterwards, a woman came up to me and asked if I'd be willing to speak to their Commission on Aging in Reading. And I lived in Reading for 21 years, so I said, yeah, I'd love to go back to the old place. So I went there last week and spoke to them, and it really was amazing to see the comparisons and contrast with the town, but also this group. They are at a much different stage. They're trying to figure out how do they build a at-home in Darien. What does their Commission on Aging look like in that type of market? So it really was interesting, and they have some really great people on there. But I would also say that this is an amazing group right here. To be able to see the commitment everybody has here and the things that get done, and I think they would probably aspire to what this group does. So kudos, Joe.
Awesome, well, thank you. No, it's been great, and a very nice event you guys put on. It was very cool. So congratulations on that. Look forward to attending future events. Very cool. Any questions for Chris? Hearing none, we'll start with old business. Anybody have any old business? Hearing none, I know we have some new business. Peter?
I've got two pieces of new business, Joe. At the Aging Connecticut Summit, Michael Werner, just hand this out. You can pass this. Michael Werner, who is the senior policy person on the division of CWESCO, said to me, could I introduce you to a couple of young people that are now interns in CWESCO? And I said, sure, but I can't really spend much time with them. He introduced me to two folks, and I'm handing out essentially their biographies, a brief biography. Wendy Jiang is, as you'll read, senior fellow at the Yale Law School, focusing on palliative care. And Blake Robertson is getting his master's in healthcare management. So it's two very, very bright, and as you can read, entrepreneurial young people. And they said to me, you know, we'd really like to know how a town works together on elder care and where we can start to think about what we might do. So what I said to them was, you know what, I'll volunteer to do what I did with Kelly Loeffler and just act as a host. And so they're coming down. Unfortunately, that was my question to you, Ally, offline, is they don't have class on Friday, so they're coming Friday, December the 1st. But I'm even wondering offline if there's somebody in Human Resources that might be willing to talk to them on Friday. You and I can have a conversation about that after. But what this is to me, it's an illustration again of what we as a town should be doing and can do. Here are some really, really bright young people that are saying, hey, we want to know what's going on, and we'll volunteer. And one of them said, you know, we could do some work in gerontology if we know what the issues are. So again, it's a matter of communicating and reaching out and getting to know these people. Again, Chris, if you had somebody on your board, for example, with an education background, that might, you know, connect with some of these people. So that's just a thought, okay? I just throw that out, and we can have that as future discussions.
Yeah, totally.
Second thing, at the SWACA meeting, we heard that Town of Trumbull has a volunteer tax program, senior center volunteer tax program. So if you live in Trumbull and you do 100 hours of volunteer service, you can get a $600 deduction on your real estate. And I called Michelle Jacob. Do you know her?
Oh, yeah, Michelle, no, not Jacobs, Michelle, I can't think of her last name. Yes, the Director of Human Services.
Right, and I talked to her yesterday, and she said that 8 to 10 years ago, their first selectman thought that this was a great idea and put this in place. And Tim Herbst it was. And today they have 14 to 20 folks to take advantage of this program. And what these folks do is they volunteer in town services, and for 100 hours of work, they get $600 relief, and there are a couple of them that are couples, so they get $1,200 relief. And again, so what happens? Yesterday I get my AARP bulletin, and I open it up, and it says here, punch in and pay taxes. Programs allow older adults to work off property levels. So something I had not known anything about, you know, it's been under the radar. Here it is, and it's happening in different places around the country. And Joe, I don't know, but, you know, we have a new first selectman.
Yeah.
I think it'd be terrific. I don't know, again, maybe somebody needs to spend more time with Michelle, but I think it's something that we should consider undertaking.
I totally agree. I mean, I think that's a great
And
idea.
the reason it triggered it was because, if you remember last month, Beth Paris said she needs volunteers.
Yes, exactly.
She needs volunteers. So here's an incentive. I mean, Tom does a lot of volunteers, so he's probably got the $600 already in his pocket, right?
We do have a new first selectman. I will reach out to him and see if we can get him to come to the January or February meeting and we can have this discussion, right? And thereby along with other topics. I think that's a great way of, because it's gonna require the town to develop something like they have in Trumbull, right?
Sure.
Where if you actually have the accountability, and it might be easiest, to your point, I wish, of course, she's sitting here watching this on TV at some point going, thanks a lot, Joe. Beth Paris, okay, and her group, right, to be in a position where they can keep track of those hours, because that's where the 100 hours has to come in, right? So it's gonna need to be somebody within a town group, right?
But no, what Michelle said, she's also getting them to work in other areas
Fair.
of the town. So it's not just, she doesn't just want it for the
Okay.
senior center, but for Parks and Rec and whatever.
So the question is, who in the town is gonna track those hours, right? That's gonna be, that may be our push and pull, right? And that's the question. So can we get someone within town who people check in with? Ironically, going back to our supermarket question, that would be easy enough to do online, but seniors may not be as cell phone friendly. So, but I'll definitely have a conversation with John, see if I can get him to come to our January and February meeting. And then the question becomes, is this something we can work? Because this is a great idea. To the extent that we have a need, especially right now in the Mather Center and certainly elsewhere, and can we get these hours tracked so these seniors get this discount? It's a great idea, so I think we should absolutely try to push for that. That's a good idea. Cool.
Well, I wonder if people, like similar to like kids who have to do community service for different programs and stuff, if the person that you volunteer for just signs off on it, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that it has to be a town, and then you'd have like a form filled
Right.
out. You know, like you have so many seniors who volunteered at home in Darien, right, for shopping and driving and everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe Chris would have to sign off on their hours or something like that.
Whatever way we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably set up.
That's gonna be, so it's an interesting question of going back 7 years, when Trumbull did this, right? Who did they designate to be their person, right? And so to the extent we can find out and duplicate what Trumbull did, that's probably our best bet. But again, it's a great idea, it should definitely happen in Darien. The question is, how do we make that happen? So we'll figure it out. That's the goal. Awesome.
And their population is 35,000.
This is definitely something we can do. The only question is the mechanics of it and getting people, getting the right. I'm thinking of the classic chicken and egg question. Is this first a tax department question,
Yeah.
right? Then it's the implementation of it through whoever. So my guess is the first place, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is to have someone within the tax department be our, as I call him, rabbi, to help us put this through, right? And then to the extent that we get their sign off on it, then moving it forward, or is it something with the first selectman? So I'm gonna go first to the first selectman. We all know that the Mather Center's huge hero is Dave Campbell as first selectman who pushed that through. So maybe this would be something that John would be willing to champion, and then work his magic through all of the various boards that we need to make this happen.
I
So,
was gonna say, there's also the Board of Finance that sets the tax rates.
oh yeah,
The
I
tax
mean,
rate, the tax department just collects it.
Oh,
They
agreed.
don't agree on.
the only good news is the P&Z is not involved in this. But speaking of which, the other timing on this, Peter, couldn't be much better because I have Jim Palin of the Board of Finance coming next month in December. So as a result to speak, so this could be something we bring up with him as well. The question of Board of Finance. What do you think? Is this something that can be done? So that's something, because what I wanted to do from his perspective is to get an overview of what he sees financially, including the Ziegler property, things of that nature. So he is coming to our December meeting, and we can also put this Trumbull tax issue as well in front of him. So good call. Awesome. Yes, my friend. What's up,
I
Jerry?
was just wondering, how did we ever make out with that discussion we had, I wasn't here last time, about the hospice situation that we were talking about, the end of life? Did we ever come?
We came to a conclusion that we would not take a position on the question of whether, if you're talking about the question of physician-assisted suicide or even dying, is that what you're talking
No.
about, Jerry?
The one where people, like, I find now that, like, Beth has that great group, the Alzheimer's support group.
Yeah?
A lot of people now in the community, and I know other places, because I get phone calls from people about the end of life. They're in the support group,
Mhm.
the person has come to the point where it's end of life. What
Right.
do I do now? A
Mhm.
lot of people really don't know what to do. So I was just wondering, do we have any kind, like this here, this is great, the palliative care and, you know, for people. I think, is there anything in our town that has that for people besides what Beth's doing? You know, does that go through Beth or how does that work?
So like,
Like a
I
lot
wanna
of
understand
people-
where you're going from.
Okay, a lot of people are calling me like they're at the end of life
Yeah.
with their loved one.
Yeah,
Help will say to them, you really need hospice. Is there anything in our community, like in our support groups, which I'm sure Beth has, but are they giving people this information, what to do next?
is
'Cause
that
I
an
know
Ally
they can't-
question?
Well, I mean, we have like a resource directory of, and we could certainly guide people to the
So
hospices.
do,
It
right,
doesn't have, that's what you mean, connect
Right.
them to the hospices.
how do we, do we
They can
tell them
call us
to
and
call you?
Yeah, and I mean, to be put on hospice, as you probably know, you need a doctor's order saying that
Exactly.
you have less than 6 months
Yep.
to live, but we've certainly worked with different hospice agencies.
Okay,
and
so that's where they would go to social.
if they needed
Okay.
like resources, you know.
Right,
look-
because
names
that's
of
what happens, I mean,
agencies.
that support group that Beth runs is terrific. People have, you know, commented on that, they've come to that, and it's a big help to them. But then it gets to the point that now they're at they see their loved one at the
Yeah.
end of life. And a lot of times people call me and they'll ask me, so I can refer them to you, that's what I'm
Yeah.
Ally, put out your phone number on TV 79 for folks.
Oh, I have your phone number. I think you should, because
Oh, yeah.
there are people.
203-656-7328 is the main number, and my direct number is 656-7494.
Okay, good. I have that, so I'll just direct them to you, because there are people in crisis,
Yeah, and don't know how to navigate that.
right, how to navigate it, right?
Good.
Mhm.
Okay,
And Beth Paris is beefing up those programs, Jerry, she talked about that last time.
Yeah,
Yeah, so those programs are being beefed up, realizing there's more and more of a need for it.
oh, boy, yeah. Especially for the caregivers, you
Right.
know. And then they get so overwhelmed by
Yeah.
what's happening to their loved one, and it's a perpetual grieving that they're going through.
Mhm.
Well, and the nice thing is when someone is on hospice, there are social workers
Mhm.
that work specifically for the hospice, and after the loved one passes away, they are still entitled to those services for a year.
Exactly.
And they'll even come to the home,
Right.
the social
Yeah.
worker most of the time
Right.
comes to the home, so that's something I think people
Just
don't really.
grief counseling?
Yep, grief counseling
Wow.
for a year.
It's remarkable. I mean, that's such an amazing service for people who've lost a loved one, to have the person they were working with,
Mhm.
right, through their loved one's passing, still there,
Yeah.
to reflect back on what they experienced and how they moved through.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Or even if they weren't working with a social worker during, like I'm thinking of a family I'm helping in town, they haven't been connected to the social worker and they don't want to quite yet,
Yeah.
but down the line, they're entitled to those services
Sure.
still. So when they're
And
ready.
that, when that
grief
Beth has,
counseling.
that support group is just phenomenal. Because there's people that, I mean, I remember when I went through it with my family, I went to Norotan Presbyterian, they had a support group. As soon as I got through, my mom passed away, the support group dissolved.
Oh, right.
So, I mean, I know here, you know, people can, and I recommend them to go to Beth. So, you know, that's a great, it's a big help for people. So now I know that when they do call, I'll send them to you, because I'm sure they ask Beth too.
Mhm.
But some people call me and say, what do I do now? You know, so.
Mm. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that, Colleen.
Of course.
Yes, ma'am.
One other, we should just remind everybody that on the 16th, tomorrow, at 4 to 5:30, is the Alzheimer program of how to finance later in life issues for care, for senior care and Alzheimer care.
And where's that taking place?
That's happening at the senior center. It
Perfect.
was postponed from October. The presenter had COVID, and so the 16th is the makeup time.
Perfect. Fantastic, thank you. Yes, sir.
I just, excuse me, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the wreaths across America. For anyone who's not familiar with that, I'm just going to read what's on the home page here. It says, "Remember the fallen, honor those who serve, teach our children the value of freedom. Welcome to Spring Grove Veterans Cemetery's Wreaths Across America page. On December 16th at 12 p.m., wreath placement immediately following the ceremony where they read off all the names of the fallen soldiers. Wreaths Across America will be at Spring Grove Veterans Cemetery to remember and honor our veterans through the laying of remembrance wreaths on the graves of our country's fallen heroes and the act of saying the name of each and every veteran aloud. Please help our location lay wreaths at the many graves as possible by clicking on the red sponsor button, or if you would like to volunteer to participate in the wreath laying ceremony, please click on the volunteer button next to the cemetery name below, and don't forget to click on the invite button to invite your friends and family to join you. Thank you very much for supporting the Spring Grove Veterans Cemetery and Wreaths Across America. I know last year there were about between 400 and 600 wreaths less than the actual amount that their goal was. So that was sort of disappointing. So right now, they're still not even at 50%. This year they have, as of last night, I looked, it was 921 wreaths that were sponsored, and they have 1,279 to go. So I'm just putting a message out there, asking people to go on to the website, Wreaths Across America, it's $17 per wreath, and see if we can really make it this year to that goal of 1,279 wreaths.
Thank you for that. And as I think we all know, what's amazing about Spring Grove is that you have so many Civil War graves there, that because of our home, which was here in Darien for older soldiers and sailors, so many of them died in Darien from all over the north and were buried in that cemetery. So it's quite a powerful thing to think about these men who gave their lives, and you know, many times who are, if you're in a home of that nature, you probably are injured, you have other issues, who gave so much. So I think it's an amazing thing. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Great. Other new business? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn the November meeting? Thank you, Mary. Second. Thank you. All in favor? Thanks, everybody. Great meeting.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Nice job.